The development team clearly made several attempts to alter the feel of the combat in this DLC specifically. No matter what difficulty you played the main campaign on, you will always have to play Cold to Cold Heart on hard, which I don't mind as someone who's played these games a lot. I just don't understand why that's the case and think the decision is somewhat unnecessary. Although the argument could be made for adding some difficulty after the player has presumably finished the main story. What I would say to that is that this DLC already does plenty to facilitate varied gameplay that introduces new challenges into the arena, like these freeze gun enemies. While they converge on overuse, I can forgive that due to this being a relatively short DLC, and therefore the necessity arising to use them quite frequently to get the most out of their design. They'll shoot cold rays at you and freeze you in place momentarily if you get hit, while also doing chip damage to you. They're a welcome addition as they provide more variety when it comes to ranged enemies, and also telegraph their attacks way better than the enemies that just have guns. So I never felt like it wasn't my fault whenever I got caught out by them, which can't be said for these combo-ruining losers. The second innovation in combat here comes in the form of the XE suit, which allows you to throw batarangs that do slightly more damage, and use a reskinned version of the shock gloves. While I quite like the design of the XE suit, and think it's used well in the narrative, as a reference to all of the other times that Batman has had to use new suits in cartoons for toyetic purposes, and how it characterizes this new and improved version of Batman as a perhaps slightly more prepared version of the character than the one that jumped into the middle of a prison break without knowing what's going on, thus continuing to show his character growth, its utility is negligible at best and padding at worst. I already didn't like the shock gloves, and reskinning them here didn't make them any less annoying, even if they are slightly less garish than they used to be.
We look to for protection.
The thermal batarangs are also not utilized very well until the ending boss fight, in which case they could have just been what Alfred gave us with the drop container. But I still want to be clear, I like the XE suit. My only criticism is that I don't think it's utilized very well in gameplay specifically. Narratively, however, it makes sense and should be in this story. And honestly, I think the heat gloves would have been a neat idea in isolation, considering the amount of time you actually end up spending with them. It's just at this point that I am so sick and tired of the shock gloves that reskinning them isn't going to help. So really, it's still the shock gloves' fault. Blame them.